people say to me, how come you upset so many people? And I say, I tell the truth. It's as simple as that. I really do tell the truth. And everyone pussyfoots around issues, So I went to dinner last night, a dinner party at Valdevie, with a very interesting group of people. I hadn't met most of them. And the host is a private equity wizard from London, very successful, big name. And he and his wife, lovely couple. And I went to dinner, and sure enough, within seconds, the conversation got onto the election in America. And I went, it's a new era. It's such a good thing. It's wonderful. Trump won. And, three of the women went, he's a misogynist. He's a terrible person. He's a criminal. And it's just quite extraordinary how light-headed some people are. They look at the man, they don't look at the policy, they don't look at the people around him, they don't look at the presidential run he had over 4 years ago, the fact he's been in the waiting room for 4 years. And people are extraordinary. And our host said a very interesting thing. I'm going to go straight into this. He said 80% of men are macho, and 20% are sort of effete, elite type. And 80% of women are sort of the caring, homebody, empathetic type. And 20% are more sort of the macho women. And this swing has been a swing to the manosphere. And I read that in an article. I like that description. So the Trump American era has arrived, and I think you'll have Republicans for 12 years. Trump has one more term as president, and then it'll be J.D. Vance or Tulsi Gabbard, my view, for 8 years. So it's 12 years of Republican rule. Wonderful. It's the technology era. And I know everybody's been saying since the internet was created and, the blockchain was invented, it's now AI. And now we're into the real technology era. And which country is best positioned for that? America. So it's Republicans, America, technology, and everything, and male. I think, men are tired of being called racist, misogynist, second-class citizens, weaklings. All the minority groups have had their say. All the woke ideologies have had their say, and the pendulum has swung back. Enough's enough. And Trump is the manifestation of that. He appeals to the macho instinct and not the effete intellectuals of the Democratic Party. And he won in what was very close to a landslide.
Rob, the people involved, Dimension Data, the company. We've both been around long enough to remember when it was the darling of the stock market. Before it was acquired, then it took a tumble. Then it was acquired by the Japanese company NTT. But this judgment that Judge Denise Fisher put through this week is, it's not just rattling cages. It's quite shocking in many respects.
It certainly is. I mean, 2 days ago, I got sent this document by two friends of mine who said, this has just come out a day ago. You've got to read it. It's like a crime novel. And I've never really read a judgment before, but I started reading it, and it's, I don't know how many pages in it. It's 100 pages or so, 75. And it is a crime novel. I mean, I couldn't put it down. The fact that I do know a number of the people makes it even more pertinent and even sadder to read it. And, why am I being asked about it? I'm not a lawyer. I'm a businessman, is because I also then got a number of messages from friends of mine, including some prominent black buddies of mine who said, aha, Rob, this is bad behavior by capitalists, by corporate chieftains, by people who've been held in such high regard. And there you are sort of saying capitalism works, capitalism is good. And these look like they're bad people. So, it does look like they've done bad. It really does. It's not a good story to be reading about South Africa.
Give it to us in a nutshell. What happened?
So, assuming that the judgment is correct, which Judge Fisher's done a very thorough job, it looks like the following has happened: that 6 prominent business people, all white, all known to many of us, and all highly respected, who, some of whom have built Data into one of the great success stories of South African technology and South African business, fabricated the acquisition of the Data campus, which is in Johannesburg, in Bryanston, a data center, a golf club, and a art collection, which was part of the campus, at a ridiculously low price, where the company buying these 4 assets, and I think it ended up only being the campus and the art collection in the end, at this ridiculously low price of 1.4 billion rand, ejecting other potential buyers, including Patrice Motsepe's African Rainbow Capital, which is a real estate buyer, persuaded the Japanese that the buyers were a BEE group of mainly women. At least 51% of the buying group were BEE women. Not true. Buying at a ridiculously low price, where 2 members of the buying party were actually sitting on the board of the selling company, advising them to sell and at what price to sell. So this is fraud. But it's a fraud of the most unsophisticated Keystone Cops variety. I mean, when you read it, you go, these people are supposed to be sophisticated, business people, and it's the most amateur fraud ever. I mean, most frauds are sophisticated. This is just done in a way that you think they know the rules. What the hell are they doing? And why it's an affront to me, and it's so sad because some of these people I really have liked. I really admired them and liked them. Why it's so sad to me is on a number of levels. It's an abuse of BEE, and I've never been a fan of BEE, but it's a real abuse of BEE by 6 white corporate chieftains who've always been held in high regard. It's an affront to foreign direct investment. Entity Docomo is one of the biggest companies in the world, and they've been ripped off. So this thing is just dreadful from a number of different angles. It's dreadful. It's dreadful for South Africa. It's dreadful for FDI. It's dreadful for BEE or anti-BEE. From a number of fronts, this really is an embarrassing story.
Last week, I asked you about your values and what they were. And I guess it was a little unfair because I didn't give you the chance to think about that. I've no doubt you have thought about it because you didn't answer it. Have you got a answer for me now on that?
Yeah, it's a sort of scramble of beliefs and values and principles. And I guess the most important of all is a saying that I love. It says, what's the point of life if you don't try and do something remarkable? Everyone's got an excuse not to do things. Everyone's got an excuse to not prioritize what's important, or just take risks and get things done, or just say what you really believe. So courage is probably number one. And, I was a cowardly lion for many, many years of my life, and then fell into this hellhole of public speaking and political activism and capitalist activism. And there's no turning back. Once you've said what you've said, you keep going forward. I'm a minimalist. And I don't know if that's a principle or a value, but I don't believe in possessions. Maybe because I've been able to have them, I don't want them. I don't wear watches. I only really wear blue and white when I dress. I don't collect anything. In fact, the only books that I own are, where are they? Somewhere here. Okay, can't find it. I only own about 20 books. I gave the rest away. I don't have vases. My wife just said, if you ever give me jewelry and diamonds, and I'm going to sell them on eBay. And I said, wow, that's interesting. Why? She said, why should De Beers tell me that shiny stone is worth anything? Why should Hallmark cards tell me tomorrow's Mother's Day. It's marketing. It's made up. It's nonsense. And so I'm a minimalist. I don't collect anything. I don't own possessions. I like big houses, money in the bank, and great experiences. That's it. Memories for the rocking chair. I believe in freedom. I believe in economic, political, cultural, and personal freedom, like Javier Milei. I believe in self-reliance. I think you've got to rely on yourself and believe in yourself, regardless of the cost. And as you know, yesterday, when we spoke about Die Data, I was talking about 6 people that have been friends of mine that I like, that I've admired. And I think if the ruling is correct, they've done a terrible thing. They've done a terrible thing. They probably won't talk to me again, but I have to tell the truth. I can't just attack the ANC and then defend the 6 guys in Die Data who've done potentially something that's criminal. I've got to tell the truth. I believe in continual study, reading, learning, and listening. I've got books all over here that I'm reading, and then I give them away. I dog ear them, mark them up, and give them away. I don't keep them. And I believe in compassion. And there's a lovely movie, and it wasn't a very good movie with Kevin Spacey, but it was a movie called Pay It Forward. And I really made that part of my life. If you do me a favor, Alec, I'll thank you, but I'm not going to pay you back. My job is to pay it forward to someone else. And I do every day a random act of kindness. Just I'll be in an engine, I'll paying my bill, and I'll see behind me 2 or 3 people with milk and a loaf of bread. Whereas I've got all my wonderful stuff in front of me. And I say, I'm paying for these 4 people. I don't want them to know who I am. I don't care. Pay it, move on. I'm driving through Bishop's Court, steep. I can see it's about to rain. There's a lovely lady with her kid all wrapped up with heavy stuff. Stop, pick her up. Where are you going? Even if it's 20 minutes out of my way, I'll call my wife and say, I'm doing a rack. I'm going to be late. And I'll drive the lady and her kid all the way to Weinberg or wherever. And every day I do one. Not because I want people to know who I am or for any other reason than it's my duty to pay things forward. And that's I'm a Stoic. I don't believe in religion. I think religion is actually a form of tyranny, and some are more tyrannical than others. We can debate that later. But I'm a Stoic. I try and practice Stoicism. And I'm not perfect. I like everyone else, do stupid things and say stupid things, lots of them. But that's the life I try to practice. Actually, I'm looking at this book right now. You can see it. Probably back to front. The Daily Dad. 366 meditations on fatherhood, love, and raising great kids. And every day I opens the page and reads. Lovely. But then, can I put it into practice? Not necessarily. There we go. That's the best I can do. So let's say we had 8 to 10 ministries. And at the end of each budget cycle, each ministry came back and said, I don't need the 7 billion rand you've given me for my ministry. I need 6 billion because I've saved 1 billion. I'm putting that back to Treasury, and Treasury says, okay, we're going to use that to pay down the debt, to reduce the debt, the interest charge. Wouldn't that be amazing? Or wouldn't it be amazing if every ministry on a monthly basis came back and said, we've found within our ambit 20, 30, 40, 1,000 laws that make no sense, that are very from another century, that we'd like to get rid of. We want to get rid of these regulations and these laws. Instead of, let's create new regulations and laws, which lefties and lawyers and bureaucrats and administrators tend to do, add more laws because we know what's best for everyone. Let's go the other way around. Reward people on identifying stupid laws that don't make sense, that are damaging to the economy, that slow down economic growth and investment. Let's have a ridiculous law website and have people post on the website stupid rules and laws and regulations that make no sense or that need to be got rid of or that are holding us all back. Let's identify them and chop, 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 chop. Donald Trump, when he ran for his first term, said, I'm not going to allow new regulation to come in unless we get rid of 2 old regulations. Genius. Let's implement that law. So bureaucrats should be trying to save money, not spend money, reduce regulation, make things quicker, make things easier, make things more efficient. DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. And they don't look at that. That's what we want. And just a quick comment on the Auditor General, national and provincial audit outcomes, right? Released last week. And this is now down at the sort of municipal level. And the municipal level is important because these are the critical areas for the poor. Energy, water, health, education, which is 77% of spending. And only 17% of the bodies responsible for these critical areas to the poor got clean audits. So it's not just at the top level, at the Cyril cabinet, Pretoria level, that there's corruption, waste, bureaucracy, and inefficiency. It's right down at the municipal level. And I'm pretty sure every single one of those disastrous municipalities are ANC run. They're not DA run, they're not PA run, they're ANC run. So there is a huge amount of waste and inefficiency too. Bring the axe, cut.
But it's not just the South African trend that we're seeing here. People are gutful. I remember you using that word and using Futsak ANC as well at the BizNews conferences, but people really are gutful. And it's not just here. It's almost like there's been a system that's been in place for decades, which is the pendulum's just swung much too far now. And there's a memory lapse on who actually funds all of this. And so the people who are funding it, which is we the people, are now gutful, and they're saying we're not prepared to fund this anymore. We better change. And we know in South Africa, but globally we're seeing a similar trend. Do you think Donald Trump's election is perhaps the biggest signal of that?
Without a doubt, because America's by far the most powerful country in the world, militarily, economically, technologically, and will be even more so over the next 12, 15 years. America's going to absolutely boom, as I've said before. So, Biden, what did he do in his 4 years? Nothing, okay? He was senile, did nothing really at all, except get America into wars. Whereas Donald Trump is being upfront about what he wants to do, and he's hitting the ground running already. He's already made his appointments. This is the fastest in any presidential, pre-presidential term, these appointments. So what Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and others are doing is stating exactly what they're going to do, and it's going to impact everyone in the world. There are a lot of good people, like I'd say, almost all the BizNews tribes people have been suspicious of the left, suspicious of climate change narratives, suspicious of all this nonsense. But there hasn't been, the catalyst that has sort of sparked the fire for us all to stand up and say, you remember that movie in the 70s, the guy screaming out of the window, I have had enough, I've had enough. I can't remember what that movie was.
I'm not going to take it anymore.
I'm not going to take it anymore. And that's where we are right now. There are very few people who have stood up and said enough, but more and more are doing it. And there's momentum. And we have examples. Javier Milei in Argentina and the Trump presidency. I couldn't be more excited. It'll impact a lot of other countries in the world. I think this momentum, this narrative is spreading fast and furious everywhere. And it's going to be very hard for these, cultural Marxist, leftist ideologues that are, that have spread socialism across the world to fight against it. When Helen Ziller a few years ago got beaten up for saying, why should anyone pay tax if we know the government is going to waste it or steal it? She was right. She was absolutely courageous and right to say that. And I read, a month ago that the government's considering a one-off wealth tax on the rich. That is not going to happen because we know how much waste there is in government. How dare they go to taxpayers and say, we want you to pay more tax? How dare they? They need to clean up their act first. And this narrative momentum spreading worldwide. It's funny because I pulled my group together a week ago and said, come on, let's get this narrative going. And then, you wrote an op-ed, I think, this morning on cost cutting and efficiency. Jonathan Katzenellenberg is a friend of mine, wrote a great article. The momentum is already beginning in South Africa. I'm definitely not the first to say it.